Did you know that there's more money in circulation now than any other time in history? Yet it's become harder and harder for you to take care of your family, take care of yourself, and just live your life. Why is that? Is there even anything you can do about it? In this video, we're going to take a deep dive into the underlying problem and the solution. You know, there's more money in circulation now than any other time in history, yet it's become harder and harder for you to take care of yourself and your family. Why is that? Is there anything you can even do about it? In this video, we're going to take a deep dive into the underlying problem and the solution. Make sure you stick around to the end because we're going to give you some tools and resources to help you have an immediate impact on your family situation. Hey, welcome to the Wealthy Archive. Today, we're going to do a reaction video on the most recent Joe Rogan Experience episode with Pierre Poilievre. Now, there's a specific section that I'm going to break down in here because Pierre goes deep and hard in the paint on what the actual problem is that not just Canadians, but people really all around the world are facing in today's landscape. Have you noticed that every time you go to the grocery store, the item that you bought last week, something that you frequently buy, just every week it seems to be either the package is getting smaller and the price stays the same, or the price is going up and it's the same package, or some combination of that. That's not an accident. It's very intentional. It's very clear why that's happening. And people just haven't had the time or the energy to take a deeper dive into understanding what's happening. So we're going to give you a sense of what's going on so that you understand the problem that we're facing, that we're all facing, and what you can do about it. So I'm going to shut up now and let Pierre take over.
The second thing I would go after is just the inflationary spending, which is a big problem all over the Western world. Like, people just can't afford to live. I don't know if you encounter that around here.
Oh yeah, yeah.
It's
I mean,
crazy.
inflation's crazy. The national debt in America just went up to 39 trillion.
Right, which is bigger than your GDP.
It's a lot of money.
So explain this to me. 50 years ago, a barber and a waitress could buy a house with a big yard for a dog and raise 4 kids, meat and potatoes on the dinner table every night. And now,
It's pretty damn good, doesn't it?
Now an accountant and a lawyer can't do that. Why is that?
Pierre, that's a great question. Yeah, why is that? Have you ever taken the time to think about that? Do you even have time to think about it? Or are you like most people and you're just living life day to day and it's going by super fast and you're busy and it's just like, oh my gosh, I noticed that my jar of peanut butter is like $7.99 and last week it was $3.99. Like, what's going on? And then, oh, you go to work the next day and that's it.
Well, there's a lot of spending,
Yeah,
and a lot of making money, a lot of just
cash.
turning, just making dollar bills with nothing behind it, nothing to back it.
This is the biggest fraud perpetrated on the working class people in the last 100 years.
Printing money is just
Printing
insane.
money.
It's just the idea you just print more money. It's like, and people go, oh, okay.
Well, it looks painless at first,
Right.
but if you have an economy with 10 apples and $10, it's $1 an apple. You double the number of dollars to 20, but you still only have 10 apples. Well, all of a sudden it's $2 an apple. It's not that the cost of apples has gone up. It still costs the same resources to grow and pick the apples. It's that the price has gone up because the value of the money has gone down.
Right.
Okay, so we're starting to get into the meat here of what the essence of what we're going to share in this video is. To hear what they're saying, right? We're putting more money into circulation. That is government and banks. Those are the ones who have control over that. That's not you. That's not your fault. That's not your problem. Now, what is, I have to say that we got to take a little bit of responsibility here because we live in a massively consumer-driven nation, and we've fallen into the trap. That's another part of the problem. Might be a little bit more secondary, something we could expand on another video because it's more behavioral and habitual that we've gotten sort of sucked into. So yes, that is absolutely a problem. Consumerism, marketing, media, it's pushing you to get the next big thing all the time. But what these guys are talking about that's really critical, that a lot of people just don't have a lot of context for, and they really don't understand even the history of money. Joe made a comment, I think it was Joe, that said, yeah, there's nothing backing it, right? So if you look at money, particularly in the United States, I'd have to look back again and look at Canadian tender, but they both say something similar. Like these are legal tender. It's nothing more than an agreement. The money that we use in circulation actually has no fundamental value. It's just an agreement. It's a law. If you don't take my money to pay the bill, I literally don't have to pay you. You have to take it. It's a rule, right? So that's the agreement that we've made. That's the only reason it has value. That's why when they keep putting more into circulation, the value of the money is going down. So it isn't always the problem being the cost of goods going up. It's the fact that the value of the dollar is actually going down. And the reason for that, you can look this up, do a little research, but prior to 1971, prior to President Nixon removing what's called the gold standard, at that time, the United States could only print the amount of money, have the amount of money in circulation that they actually had in the vault in reserve for the value of gold. So the money literally had a value. And if you look it up, if you look up US currency, what was written on there prior to 1971, it actually tells you that that money can be turned in for its value in precious metals. It had a real value. It was like a certificate. Now it's just a ticket. There's actually a term for it. I can't think of it off the top of my head, but it literally just says on there, this is legal tender. So that's the problem. Now, the way that they inflate the money supply, they'll expand on that a little bit later when they start talking about great ideas in Parliament. But the way they do it is they don't just open up the printing press and rip off the governor. They have to issue loans. So they're creating more and more debt to inflate the money supply. And that means there's even more interest that needs to be serviced. And who the heck do you think is picking up the tab for that?
So in America, over the last 55 years, you've doubled the number of homes in America from about 70 million to 150 million. You know how much the money supply has grown? 30 times. So you have twice the homes, but 30 times the cash.
Take a second and just let that sink in. So they've doubled the number of homes. Oh, yay, that's great. Doubled the homes. That sounds wonderful. But they've 30 times the money supply. Like you can literally go to the US Federal Reserve and look at these statistics. It's absolutely insane. The money up to 1971, it's like here, and now it's like way up here, right? Doubled the amount of homes, 30 times the money. You don't have to be a rocket scientist to figure out that if there's only 2 times the amount of homes, but 30 times the amount of money, they might just want a little bit more of that money for one of those homes. Is that a fair assumption? Where's it going to come from?
So you have twice the homes, but 30 times the cash. So what's happened? Housing costs have gone up 15-fold in 55 years. And now an entire generation of kids can't afford homes. We have exactly the same problem in Canada. This is the biggest wealth transfer from the working class to the elites, from I say the have-nots to the have-yachts.
Man, this point right here absolutely boils my blood. It boils my blood. Because when he said a wealth transfer, we really are in the largest wealth transfer in human history right now. There's something crazy like $130 trillion that's going to exchange hands over the next 10 to 15 years. Now, Pierre said something really critically important right there. The question is, who do you think is going to wind up with most of that capital? See, we all go out in life to build something good, hopefully with good intentions. But there's a big difference between having good intentions and being intentional. So if you're not planning, if you're not being intentional, if you're not paying attention, if you're not having meaningful conversations with your family, and you don't have a game plan to deal with said wealth transfer, all that's going to happen is it's going to wind up in the hands of the government, accountants, banks, and lawyers. Maybe not in that exact order, but that's exactly how it works.
And Washington and Wall Street love it, by the way, because it inflates the stock market, inflates the bureaucracy. Politicians get to spend, CEOs get their stocks inflated.
Now, I'll quickly address this. It's a bit of a sidebar. Maybe it's a different video, but he also said something important there. See, personally, I like to have control over my money and be intentional about where I deploy it and know what I can do to improve my results because I have more control. But he just talked about basically stock markets being manipulated and inflated. And we've all been taught to put our money there, and that's just what you do. And most people have no earthly idea what's actually going on in the stock market. And I'm just trying to figure out why you would ever put your money anywhere that you don't know a great deal about, that you have no control over, and that can be manipulated as simply as a ridiculous tweet that gets put out. Is that really where you want to, basically gamble with your wealth, your retirement, and your legacy? It's not for me.
It destroys the working people, and we need to get back to hard money. Everything should be getting cheaper, by the way. It takes 60 to 80% less resources to grow food. We grow 4 times the food on the same acre, get 4 times as much milk from the same cow. We use 80% less water and fertilizer. So why isn't it that food is not less expensive? It's because all of those gains are being erased by monetary inflation.
Okay, is that not absolutely freaking mind-blowing? Okay, so hold me accountable here, okay? I'm going to do a little bit of research. I'm going to talk to my team. We're going to find out, because I'm just going to assume that Pierre is not going to come on the largest podcast in the world and spew a bunch of nonsense. What he just shared there about the efficiency of how we grow things and how we use less materials and yield more, that's absolutely amazing. And he's absolutely right. If that's true, why on earth is the cost not going dramatically down? Like, it makes absolutely no sense, but it's actually really simple.
So it's not that food is more costly, it's that the money we use to buy it has less purchasing power. And we need to do what the Swiss do, which is they don't print money. They have balanced budgets, they have almost no deficit, and they have almost zero inflation in Switzerland.
So right there, it might not be exactly the same. I'm not sure how Switzerland backs their money, but that's exactly what I said earlier in the video. When you have sound money, when you have an asset backing your money, or you have savings in place to pay off debt that you acquire, this inflation problem goes away. We could actually work hard to reverse this. It's likely not going to happen. And it's not going to come from the top down. It starts with you. It starts from the bottom up. And they're going to expand a little bit more on this in the video. So I'm going to hit play again.
They have the strongest money in the world, the Swiss franc. And we would all be better if we operated like the Swiss when it comes to our money.
So in a real world scenario, it's like you take over Canada, how would you go about implementing this?
You got to cut bureaucracy, consultants, which consume, by the way, $26 billion of spending.
How big is your debt in Canada?
1.3-ish trillion.
Baby debt.
It's compared to you. You guys are
We're
really
ridiculous.
But you've gotten away with it because the American dollar is the reserve currency. Well, all of these countries prop up the value of the US dollar by keeping it on reserve. Better hope that doesn't change.
That's just a sidebar. Something interesting to think about. Here was Pierre said, better hope that doesn't change. So that's part of the reason why the US has such a stronghold as a global power, is because way back in the day after the Second World War, basically all of the gold was obtained by the United States from all over the world, and they convinced all of the other countries to hold their currency in reserve.
I hope. We don't have that luxury. And so, but we do have a lot of debt, and we have provinces too. They're quite indebted. But I would cut the bureaucracy. I would cut consultants, foreign aid. I'd cut way back on foreign aid. We give a corporate welfare, these checks to corporations. I believe business should make money rather than take money. So I would get rid of that. We're giving a lot of money to fake refugees.
So I just want to quickly chime in here. And I don't know if you're anything like me. I try to stay informed, and I've got a family. I run a business. I have lots of clients. I like to have a bit of a social life. I got to sleep once in a while. Like, we're busy. We have a lot going on in our lives. And there's so many other different areas that, in this example here that Pierre is talking about, all these corporate things and refugee stuff and foreign aid, and like, most of us don't really know how all that works, and we don't really know where the money's going, and there's zero accountability inside the government. It's not good. Look, we all want to help people, right? But the age-old saying goes, when the plane is going down, you got to put the mask on your face first before you help anybody else. And Canada is literally burning right now, and all we want to do is send money out of the country and do all these refugee programs and all these social programs. And again, that's all well and good. Okay. I don't think that the government is sitting there with little halos over their head, right? The reality of it is they're not doing this because they're amazingly great people and they just want to save the world. There must be something behind that, but that's kind of a sidebar. What I'm trying to get at here is, where does the money come from to do all of the things? Where does it come from? Where does the government get their money? They get it from the Bank of Canada, and they get it from you through taxation. So you're being taxed all the time, not only to fund all these programs, but when they borrow money from the Bank of Canada, the Bank of Canada is not real eager to lend it for free. So that means there's interest that's accumulating on that 1.3 trillion. And who do you think is servicing that interest? Do you see? It's a massive problem that just snowballs, and you're the one who's constantly picking up the tab. Are you getting pissed off yet? Because you should be.
And so we're trying to unwind that now.
What are the other things that you would have to do to drop your debt and sort of balance your budget and begin to turn things around?
Well, in addition, so I like this idea.
Great question, Joe.
Actually, believe it or not, that Bill Clinton and the Republicans did in the 90s in the U.S., it was called the pay-go law. It was a very simple principle. Every time the administration wanted to bring in a new dollar of spending, they had to match it with a dollar of savings.
Okay, in my humble opinion, not being an economist or an absolute expert at government level fiscal responsibility, but that's kind of a no-brainer. If we don't have an asset-backed dollar, at the very least, you have savings in reserve to offset the debt that you're accumulating, because then you're just on the hook for the interest, but you can pay off the debt. I mean, that's just sound.
So there was no extra net spending for like 8 years. And that's when your government balanced its budget and paid off $400 billion of debt. That law lapsed in 2002. And immediately after that, America went back into deficits, and you haven't emerged. You've been in deficit now for 25 years. This is about internalizing the scarcity. Every creature in the universe, every bird in the trees, every fish in the seas has to live with scarcity, maximizing use of scarce resources. The only creature who doesn't do that is the politician, because he's always using someone else's money. Right? It's like, oh, well, I'll just print it or borrow it or tax it. It's not my money. And so they routinely show up to their cabinet meetings and say, well, I've got a new idea. It's $100 million. Where are you going to get it? I don't know. We'll print it. We'll borrow it. We'll tax it. Not my money.
So imagine that for a second. They got these great ideas that God knows who it's going to benefit or whatever, but let's assume it was a good idea. Do you remember getting a letter in the mail, or we have a vote, or do we do anything to approve? Who's approving the 150 million or the 1 billion or the 6 billion or all these insane numbers? I don't know about you, but I didn't get an invitation to attend those meetings to approve that spending, but yet I'm still being taxed. My money is still being siphoned away from me and my family. I'm the one working for the government for over half the year, just so that I can then start making money for my family, because all of it's going to tax, and they're using that money for whatever they see fit. They don't call me up and say, hey, Vern, thanks for that, few $100,000 of taxes or whatever the number is. We really appreciate it. Just curious, where would you like to see us allocate that? I haven't got any calls like that. Have you?
The cabinet, unless you have matching savings to pay for it. Well, then you'd have these politicians walking up and down the hallways in their departments looking for waste and like rooting it out. So,
okay, that right there is a critical point that Pierre just shared. Yeah, if they had some kind of a rule like that in government, that would be amazing. But what I want you to do right now is think about how that relates to you and your situation at home, habits, behaviors, commitments, priorities. Have you ever noticed maybe your money's up, your money's down, your work slowed down, your income fluctuates from time to time potentially. You had to refinance your house at a time where the mortgage interest rates were much higher, so your mortgage payment's $1,000 more per month now than it used to be, or whatever. When your money gets interrupted like that, have you ever noticed that you find a way to still do life? You find a way to sort of get through it, right? But you're being reactionary because this thing happened. It's like, oh, well, we'll solve the problem because we're human beings and we're resilient. So what I'm offering for you is, what if you were to be intentional about creating some systems, some structures, some clear objectives, and then you commit to those objectives, as in you're capitalizing a system, or you're saving money, or you're massively paying down your debt, whatever those commitments are. When you commit to those things and you put structures in place that are in alignment with your behavior, it becomes easier to take action and implement those deals rather than being all clunky or have a lot of friction. If you have to have a lot of friction, you're probably not going to take action. And now that you've committed to that, you're making progress. It's working for you in the background. You use the rest of the money to do life, right? You purposely create some scarcity in your own life so that you become more resourceful with the capital you have left. The money leaks start to tighten up. You stop being so frivolous. You start being more intentional with where your money's going. That is how you make real progress. Yeah, there's interest rates and rates of return and all that fun stuff. But at the end of the day, it always, always, always comes down to you and what you can do and what you can control. That is the opportunity to have the biggest impact.
So instead of making the single mom, the senior, or the small business owner live with scarcity, I want the politicians and bureaucrats to live with scarcity.
Oh my gosh, wouldn't that be a miracle?
And that's what I would impose by law on my government.
Well, it's just a rational way to deal with the problem. Like, don't
hear that what Joe said? A rational way to deal with the problem. I'm going to share one of those with you shortly, so stick around.
spend money unless you could save money.
Exactly.
That's how
Don't spend money unless you could save money. Like, is that rocket science?
you balance things out. I mean, Clinton did balance the budget.
He did.
During his time, and people forget that because we've always assumed that there's always been this extraordinary debt, but that's not the case. During the 1990s, I mean, he did a fantastic job at that.
Yeah, it was that Congress was very disciplined as well, and the American people just got fed up and said, we're not tolerating these deficits anymore, and they imposed scarcity from the center. And by the way, the economy boomed because the government was restrained, and the free market economy could just roar. And that's another part of the equation, by the way, is unlock the power of free enterprise. Like, this is the 250th anniversary, not just of the Declaration of Independence, but also of Adam Smith's Wealth of Nations, where he basically, for the first time in human history, described the free market system. And that was starting to flourish in the States and in parts of Europe. And that system basically started to come into place after, the late 1770s. The growth since the free market system has come into place in the world has been 200 times faster than it was before, because it is the most powerful system for generating material benefit for the people.
Imagine when you give control and power back to the people, they actually thrive. What an insane concept. And that's what this video is all about. It's how you can go about taking back power and control over the financing function, over your money as it relates to your needs. Have more of your money actually working for you rather than working for everyone else. Most of what you handle is literally just walking out the door to solve some temporary problem, not a long-term problem. So we just need to redirect our flow of our money into a system that allows us to grow our capital uninterrupted while maintaining access to that capital so we can solve problems, but we never lose momentum on our money. We just have an increasing pool of financial value that we can go back to and access. It's like reverse inflation. Compounding is like reverse inflation. I just thought of that right now. That's kind of interesting to think about. But that's the idea, is we got to start planting seeds to grow the chow, right? We have to grow our crops. Well, in this case, our crops is capital. We have to start planting those dollar seeds so that they start growing more and more dollars, and we multiply our money in a very passive way while you're continuing to live life and you're continuing to take care of your kids and you're going to work and you're doing all the things, and the time is going to go by anyway. So if we could build a system, even if it took us 20 years to build that system to the point where we can say goodbye to the banks and not have to borrow money from them and not participate in all this nonsense inflationary stuff, and we don't have to worry about the value of our dollar continuing to go down because we actually locked in the power of today's dollar, and we build a system that actually increases our purchasing power over time. The more time that goes by, the system gets even stronger. Look, the reality of it is nobody is going to come and save you. The change cannot come from top down, government down. It has to come from the bottom up, the people up. Change happens with the people. It's got to be you. And it's got to be in a system that is private, that you own and you control and you set the terms. Because if it's not, if you leave it up to somebody else, it's nothing more than a hope and a prayer. So click the link below in the description, get access to our free 1-hour webinar, an overview on the process of becoming your own banker, the infinite banking concept, and like the video, leave a comment, share this with somebody that you think will get a bunch of value from it. And until next time, keep on compounding. Let's go, baby. We're the Wealthy Archive. It's how we do it. It's what's up. You know what I'm saying? All right. Well, I think that was pretty good.